essentially certain since I learned that I was out of my doctoral program. And the only major update from last time, which was like 2 or so weeks ago, is that I did finally tell my mom. And it went exactly how I thought it would. She was okay with it. And the whole time I talked about being, for the first time in my life, kind of excited about the future. All my life, I have been scared of the future. And I'm not talking like in world terms, political terms, in World War III is going to happen or anything like that. I am talking just, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing a year from now? What am I doing 5 years? Where am I going with my life? I was always scared of the future. I was scared of the future when I was a child. I was scared as a teenager. I was scared throughout most of college. And now that I'm here, at the moment where I am facing it now, I'm not scared. My views on the world might be different now than 10 years ago, but that's not what I want to talk about. There's also a difference in that when I was younger, I knew what the next year held. When I was a child, I was going to school. And the next year, I'd move up a group. Maybe I'd switch to middle school. Maybe I'd switch to high school. When I was graduating high school, I got my acceptance into my university literally in October. So I was in New York, and school started in September. I got my acceptance in October, and I got my scholarship 2 weeks after. I knew where I was going to school. Probably seen the signs. It's on the walking bridge. I was going to U of L, the University of Louisville. That was set in stone my entire senior year. Even before then, I knew I was going to college. That was obvious. Then when I got to college, I knew I was going to continue on in whatever program it was. At first, there were some I don't knows. I first go to school thinking I was going to do music education. I leave that behind on the drive from New York to Louisville. I thought I was going to then just like go into an English program. I didn't do that. I thought maybe I would do astronomy. I failed my astronomy course. Knew I wasn't going to do that. I take sociology the second semester, and that's kind of set. There you go. I'm doing sociology. And from there, well, the path was set. I knew I was at least getting a master's degree. By like the second year in sociology, I knew that's what at least I was doing. So I had my path set before, and my master's program was not just a master's program, it was a joint PhD. So I knew once I got my master's, I was going after my PhD. This is the first time in my life that I don't know what tomorrow holds. By tomorrow, I mean the rest of 2025. All throughout 2024, I was miserable because I knew what my future was. Dissertation proposal. If I don't succeed on that, my future is still dissertation proposal. And then we get to finally January, and it's still dissertation proposal. And then we get to February, and I learn I failed. The initial shock is kind of over. The initial sorrow is completely gone. At this point, I am just so happy to be done with it. This will be the first time that the fall will roll around and I will not be entering a school or a university. In my 29 years of life, for everything I can remember, because I did pre-kindergarten when I was like 4 or 5, I did kindergarten when I was 5 or 6 or whatever, all the way. I went straight into college, straight into the PhD, or straight into the master's and PhD joint program. For a quarter century, I have been in school. Now I'm not. And I'm going to be grateful that I got the chance to teach. I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic experience, whether it was just the 2 semesters I did as a teaching assistant, or the 3 years that I spent as a solo instructor. Intro to sociology was something I loved. And I talked in my first video that I didn't even do that super well, and by that I mean I was a fine teacher, but I did not set myself up for future success in finding instructor positions. I could probably be an adjunct. Specifically, if they need intro to sociology, I think I could nail being an adjunct. I don't know if that's the route I want to go down, and right now I am really just happy to not be thinking too much about that. I've sent out some feelers. I sent out a few sorry, yawn there. I sent out a few resumes and filled out a couple of postings on Indeed, not to really get another job, because I'm very happy with where I am right now, but just to do a little confidence boost. Damn, my windshield is so dirty. I'm just now seeing what my phone is picking up, and my windshield is so dirty. Gosh. But I put out some feelers just to see if I was hireable, or at least intriguing enough to get an interview or something. And I got back. I got responded to pretty quickly about a request for an interview. The times didn't line up, and I didn't really want to do it anyway, so I ultimately didn't. And I got another hit back today, and there was a third one in there. Yeah, there was a third one where I did actually consider, but I was honest about them. Hey, I'm only going to do this if you can offer me the top starting pay that I see on the thing here. If you can offer me the 20 an hour. They said they couldn't do that, so there was nothing doing with that. And even then, again, I didn't fully want to take that job. I was just seeing if I could get that right at the start. So I've had some responses about that, and that was a confidence booster that I really needed. Even more so than that, I get a ton of my boss has been out at GAMA, it's called the Game Makers Association conference they've been holding here in the city. And I've been texting back and forth with him a bunch because we've had a lot of people come in the shop lately because they've seen his videos, and because just he's kind of I am recognizing that he's kind of a micro celebrity in this community, and his response has just been that it's just his audience is all under one roof. So it kind of seems that way. He texted back that he has not had to pay for a single drink or meal the entire time he's been there. And I've just been telling him to enjoy it. He works so damn hard every single day that I am very happy that he is in a room with people who recognize how intelligent he is in the way of owning a card shop and a game store, how hard he is working, putting the best foot forward for his company and for his employees. And while we don't make a ton, we have full-time work and enough money to put a roof over our heads and food on the table. I, of course, am in an extremely lucky position where I still live with my dad and don't pay rent or anything like that, so I am in a position where I can save money in addition to taking care of my necessary expenses, a lot of which includes this vehicle, most of which centers around this vehicle. Insurance, tolls, maintenance, most of my necessary things run around this vehicle. But I am able to save. I am in that lucky position. So I'm very happy that he's there. But he's also been getting told by people who've been there, who stopped at the shop, that myself and my coworkers have been, gracious hosts and wonderful to them. So, more so than getting a call back for a job, I don't care about getting recognized by other people in the industry for the job that I'm currently doing. It has been a pick-me-up. It has been very helpful coming out of this and making sure that the relief I feel about being done with my doctoral program has turned into positive energy about moving forward. In addition to that, I got back into hobbies, and by that I mean I got back into prepping Dungeons and Dragons. I prepped a D&D session for the first time in a long time. I prepped a one-shot. I didn't fully finish it, but the prep work I did on it, majority of it's done. It's great. And then I've been doing map work because the end of my first campaign for D&D ended with a big calamitous event. Well, not really a calamitous event, but a landscaping changing event that literally shifted the land masses into things and changes that through play I realized I really wanted. And I think I'm not going to need another one, because now I've got a map that I'm super happy with. I was happy with my map originally, but the problem with it was that it had not been played in. And after playing in the map, I realized various things about, okay, I want to change this. We spent most of the time on one continent, and as we were playing, I was like, I really wish this had been different about it. I wish this had been different. I wish the mountains had been longer. I wish there had been more rivers. I wish the forest had been bigger. So I got to do that. And I got to change it in a way that isn't a retcon from the original campaign, but a continuation through a new event, sending us into a new age. And I got back into that. I had not prepped a D&D session in a year and a half. 2 years? Something. 2 years in June is when we ended that campaign, so we're over a year and a half, a year and a bit more on me not running D&D or any TTRPG, because after that I did run a little bit of Star Trek again, but that ended rather quickly when it came time for dissertation work. Star Trek actually ended when it came time for D&D prep. I'm an idiot. Was that the first Star Trek campaign or the second one? I ran two. Both of them ended really quickly. Does not matter. I got back into that. Not too long ago, I changed up and did stuff with my vampire game, where I actually did retcon it and just moved it out east. It was originally in California. I moved it to Maine because I like that better. Put it near the Canadian border. I had more interest with that. That doesn't matter. I got back into that. Like I said, I've gotten into writing. I got back into writing when I started working. And I am so close to finish. I'm still not done with the first draft, because now, every time I write, for the past 2 days, I've written only a paragraph of progress each. Because every single time I write a new sentence, I'm like, oh, dang, did I foreshadow this properly? I go back to the passage I'm thinking of, and either use different wording, or wasn't really there, and I enhance that and build it out there. So I've still been writing a bit and expanding to my general amounts of 800 to 1,000 words per hour and a half, hour-ish of writing. 2 hours at the most per night after work. And so I'm getting that, but the actual moving forward progress has not been a ton. So I'm looking forward to the future. The book will get done. I've got other ideas. Whether or not I'm going to try and get published, whether or not that ever happens, I'm not going to pretend that I don't want to get published, but I understand how long it takes. I understand that for the vast majority of people it never happens to begin with. I understand that for most people that it does happen, it's not your first book, it's not your second. It's not, oh, you finish the book and you get it and you're done. Nope, not everybody can be Patrick Rothfuss. You wrote one book and boom, there you go. George R.R. Martin, fantasy's really all about, I know super well. I don't even know fantasy well, let's be honest with that. But George R.R. Martin wrote a book, it got rejected 13 years, or no, it did not get rejected, it got published, but it did not sell well at all. It sold very poor. 13 years later is when he got a Game of Thrones published. 2 years after that was the next one. 2 years after that was the next one. And then 5 years after that was the fourth? And then 6 years was the fifth. And Winds of Winter is we're up like 14 years now? Winds of Winter is the sixth, and it's supposed to be a 7-book series. Dance with Dragons, the one that came out 6 years after the other one, came out right after the first season of the HBO Game of Thrones show. So it's still mostly without it. But like 13 years after his initial failure, he considered it a big failure. Only then did he hit something successful. So he had actually been published before, but it was 13 years until the next one came out. Not the next one, but his next book came out. So I know that this is not a quick, easy thing. Sanderson, the one that I know, not his first book, because Mistborn is his 14th book that he wrote, I think, but it's not even the first one he got published, I'm pretty sure. It's the one that started to really popularize his name. That was his 14th book. Boom, all that. So many people. It takes a long time. I'm gonna try, but I've got other works that for me mean something. I had a story. There is a story. Alright, it's the thing that I really couldn't write and what drove me out of writing for so long. Because I kept trying, I kept not liking it, I kept failing. It was a series of dreams, somewhere of like 50 to 100, all the way up, I used to say like 300 connected dreams. I doubt that that's the actual number, but it's what it felt like. From the ages of like 12 to 14, I had all these connected dreams. And it was basically the only thing I would dream. And it told this entire story and craft. And when I was 14, it shifted to be a daydream. And I stopped actually dreaming at all. For a really long time. I didn't like dream at night again, or at least remember anything about a dream, until I was like 19 or 20. Not important. Those series of dreams became this story that became really personal to me. And I kept trying to, through my daydreams, craft it into a narrative that made sense. And I had to alter it and edit it. And finally make it into something that I could write. And that was the book I tried to write in high school. And then early college. And it was terrible. Every single time that I tried, I'd get at most 10,000. Well, no, at most, I got 20,000 words in. And then I'd erase everything. Completely kill it. And start anew. I did try one other idea. 2 other ideas? At least one other idea, maybe 2. While in college. But I went back to the original idea, and I actually like changed up whether or not it was in that timeline. I wrote a prequel story, wrote quote unquote I thought of actually a prequel story, and I tried writing that one. That's the one that I got the farthest along in. And I failed. And I kept failing, and it was maybe 2 years into college when I just gave up and stopped. And then March, maybe early April of last year is when I start again. And I've been working on my current story, and I'm almost done with it. So things are different now. And I've got a radically different idea about that original story. I often wondered, is there such a story that's too personal to write, and not a real world happened story, just a story that means a lot to me as an individual and helped me through a lot of hard times. High school was when I was in my severe depression days. That is when this story was going on. Or that's when I was crafting this story. So I wondered, is it too personal to write? And I don't know. I'm going to try. And the big thing, I love seeing, I'm getting distracted again because I love seeing trucker culture. I've had issues with semis, being on the road with them. I remember a time where my mom and I were driving, and the semi literally just ran us off the road. No reason, no rhyme, no whatsoever. We were very clearly visible. If you can see the mirrors, they can see you, and we were very clearly visible. We were not trying to pass or anything. We were just on the right-hand side. We were going at the same speed as them. And they just got into the right lane and ran us off the road. So I've had my issues with semis. In stop-and-go traffic one time, across the bridge, a semi rear end hit me on the rear end. I braked, in normal time, in normal rhythm, with the cars in front of me. Semi hits me and crunches up. I was not even bothered by that. While I was scared and my heart was going super fast, it stopped, we were good, and everything was fine. That part didn't really even bother me. I pull over to the shoulder lane, I exit, and I turn to look at the semi, and they just drive up. And traffic flew well enough at that point that they got super far ahead, so they just completely passed me by. Rear-ended me, hit into my brakes, skidded me across the road, not super hard or far, well, a foot or two up. That part didn't get me. The part that really pissed me off was them just deciding to move on again. That was when I was driving my 2001 Ford Escort. That thing was a tank, so it was fine completely, so that didn't matter. But I got completely sidetracked. So I've got a new idea for this story where I'm cutting out basically most of it. Of course, being the dumb kid I was like, it's going to be this major series, and I've got all these different book ideas, and I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got 4 books at least. And now I'm like, nah, I'm going to condense it into one. And I'm going to cut out almost all the context. And I really don't think this idea is even going to be good. It's a science fiction story, and it centers around 6 or 7 fights. And I'm going to cut out everything in between these fights. And during the fights is when I'm going to try to give the context of it. And I'm going to leave it at that. And it's going to be short. And I'm just going to do it so I can finally say that I've written this story, and it is going to cap out at 70,000 words max, 10K words max per fight. That's it. Probably not even that many. Probably just 5K per fight. And that's it. So maybe it'll cap around 40,000 words. But just so I can say that I've written this story. So 14-year-old me can finally be happy about it. Well, the update, that's it. I finally told my mom. Technically, I still haven't told my dad yet. When I get home, my dad is asleep. He works very early in the morning. I work second shift. We drive really far. He's asleep by the time I get home, so I have still technically not technically, I have not, just flat out not told him yet. But that, telling my mom was the scarier one. Not scarier, but like, just the one where I really felt I was letting her down, especially. So, that's it. That's the update. It's done. Relief is still the main thing I feel, and for the first time in my life, I don't know what the future holds, and I am excited about it. I don't think I'm going to be rich by any stretch. I don't think I'm going to be considered very successful in life. But all I want, even if I end up alone my entire life, other than my friends, all I want is to just be happy. Because I spent a really long time not being happy. And 2024 brought back emotions that I had not felt in around 10 years. Basically to the year. And I had thought about suicide at that point in time, late 2024. Like, seriously thought about it for the first time in a decade. And it was not good. It was not mentally where I want to be. I've spent too long being absolutely miserable. I spent an entire year of my life not being miserable, just not feeling anything. That was the worst of all. And 2024 almost got me back to that one. And so I am happy to not be there. Above all else, I just want to be happy. I want to carve out my own little piece of the world. Hang out with my friends. Write my little stories that nobody cares about. Play tabletop RPGs with them and craft stories that we care about. And just be a human being and allow others to be human beings. And maybe travel a little bit, but I don't make a ton of money. We'll see if that ever happens. Arrivederci, Johnny. We will talk again. I don't know where, I don't know when. Well, actually, I do know where. I don't know when, but I do know where. It'll be in this car, driving down these same streets. Because I kind of like that. I like this. If I have another topic or another update, I'll see you then.